Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing great. We are starting our today's stream, and it's going to be a very special one. If you're going to be looking this in recording, then I guess it's not really meant for you in that sense. But for people that are live here today and are going to come later, we're actually going to have two streams. We're going to do this one, and we're going to do an experimental one right after this. Where I'm going to be essentially just working, reading through stuff and talking about what we're finding. Is going to be more of a work-along stream, so to say. But with this one, this stream is specially dedicated for your question and answers, and we're going to talk about some of the latest things. We're going to dive a little bit in depth about the drama that is there with the seized oil tanker by Finland, because there are some revelations about it that were quite interesting. And we're going to talk about some other things. Whatever you write, see the pop-up for the question and answer, and we're going to read through the questions, and I'm going to answer as much as possible. And we're going to start by saying a huge thanks to the moderating team. Obviously, how could we do it without? The moderating team is very important, because while I am the face of this channel and it is my channel, the effort that these guys are putting in is is impossible to count for me. They have been running this community. They are the people that are able to, for us to have Discord to sustain and post and aggregate a lot of information. If you're not on our Discord, check it out. It's pretty good. It's really efficient way of finding a lot of news nowadays. And secondly, they are the people that are allowing us to have these conversations clear, concise, and troll free, so we are able to have our island of saneness, so to say, on this wide fields of internet. So please join me by giving a hand to the moderating team. They definitely more than earned this over the years. And we're starting today. While you're going to be writing questions, I'm going to be reading, guys. How you doing? Please tell me how it is. For the people that are not asking questions, it's not interfering one with another. And we're going to talk about the seized ship that has been seized by Finland. So what happened? Well, there was another attack from Russians onto the European infrastructure. Now, I made a whole video just recently specifically talking why I perceive it as an aggression and an attack against Europe. And I actually, some people linked me on Blue Sky the video. I'm actually just going to show the video in a second. But they showed me the linked video in a second where someone on, I believe, Times Radio was talking about the fact that it's a great way of disguising the direct aggressor and war actions by trying to state that Russia is just waging like a hybrid war or non-kinetic war and so on. And it's basically people like in our current class of politicians just trying to evade responsibility. And instead, you know me, I've been always no bullshit. I'm very direct with my understanding of the world. Is it for everyone? Definitely not, but that's how I'm seeing it. And my understanding is if there is a country that is telling me we're fighting against NATO in Europe, and then they are attacking NATO in Europe, then at least we should have a serious negotiations and a serious discussions about our security. Specifically, if we're talking about something like triggering Article 4, even if not Article 5. But let's talk a little bit about the ship. So the ship that has been seized, it was believed to be a tanker that it was part of the Russian Shadow Fleet. Russian Shadow Fleet is a bunch of old ships that are very poorly maintained, and then these ships have been transporting the Russian oil by just hiding the actual owners of this ship, like specifically the ones that was seized by Finland right now. I believe it was registered on the Cook Islands, so like it's obviously owned by Russia, right? But because we have like a legal system, we are kind of allowing them to hide behind the 10 layers of bullshit. And what was interesting about that ship, because what happened is that ship basically dropped its anchor and then it dragged it along the sea bottom, and then it cut, I believe in total is 4 cables. Some people say 5, but it's not unclear statement right now. And apparently when the Finnish Coast Guard actually arrived on this ship and boarded it and were actually prepared for resistance, there were pictures of them with actual weapons and everything, like a full equipment. They were ready specifically to essentially fight for and capture the ship. But they apparently didn't find an anchor on that ship anymore, so it lost the anchor on the seafloor. And more importantly, the further investigation of that ship turns out that it was not just an oil tanker. Turns out that Russia has actually equipped this ship, and like, I mean, you can say it hasn't been proven that it's been Russia, but let's try to have some resemblance of reality over here. But yes, Russia equipped this ship with a lot of the spying equipment. So Russia has been using a lot of these ships to both monitor what was happening in the Baltic Sea. They were monitoring NATO activities and so on, which technically means that this ship is not a civilian vessel. So either this means that the Cook Islands have been conducting spying activity, or it was an active like it was a um, it was a military vessel, so to say, that was masquerading as a civilian one, and that military vessel conducted a hostile action against the European infrastructure. So, like the more this topic kind of opens up, the more questions that are presented to our politicians, and the way that they're trying to navigate these thin waters is just hilarious. Is like the amount of bullshit that's been spread out in the media, the evasion of answers has been just in absolutely incredible. I have not seen this in a long time. But what I want us all to understand is that this will not stop, right? This will not stop Russia. Even if we start, as it was stated, patrolling the Baltic Sea more and so on, Russia will find more ways to spite us. Like, Russia is an actively hostile nation. And when people state, well, Georgie, do you just want to go to war against Russia because of the couple of cables? Well, firstly, it's not just couple of cables, all right? Like, Europeans, we paid for it. Like, it's our money, right? So it's my property, so to say, as well. I know mostly it's like Finnish, Estonian, but I'm a European, so part of my taxes went into that probably European project as well. So, like, that's like our tax money. So Russia is just doing direct damages to me. And then we go in depth into like, well, do we need to go to war? And my answer is, well, firstly, we should start calling a spade a spade. We should start calling the hostilities and aggression of Russians to Europe as an aggression and hostility of Russia to Europe. We first and foremost need to ramp up our political discussions. We need to ramp up our political rhetoric and recognize that Russia is not just fighting Ukraine, that Russia is an actively hostile power against us. And first and foremost, the first actions that need to be taken is internal. What needs to be taken is internal actions. We in Europe has been living for a long time in this understanding that, while, politics is like one bucket, and like a business and economy is a separate bucket. And we kind of just allowed it to go. And that business basically created the political crisis that now all of our political class representatives and talking heads from the European countries are now trying to evade and navigate these rough waters, so to say, for them on not calling a spade because of the bullshit that we have been fed for so long. And this is where the question comes specifically, what do we expect to do? Do we need to go to war? No, because everything that we need to do has been already laid out many, many times. Firstly, if Russian fleet is indeed supplying Russia illegally, a hostile nation to Europe, we must prevent that hostile nation to take any potential future actions. That fleet needs to be banned from entering any of our waters, passing through any of our waters. This is not even discussing. This is like ground zero. Like, this shouldn't be like presented as some kind of a big achievement. No, this is just like, how you say, rebalancing the position, so to say, understanding where we are. And then secondly, we need to take aggressive actions against Russia. And aggressive actions against Russia doesn't have to be external. We don't need to even go externally against Russia. We should start internally, because what was happening so far is that we said economics is one bucket, politics is another bucket. Well, we should start stating as like, well, Russia is a hostile nation. We cannot have this two-bucket system when there is an actively hostile nation against our interest. Like, bitch, don't correct me on my English pronunciation. Like, English speaking countries, like, have you listened to your politicians speak? Don't you fucking judge me on my English pronunciation. I was like, when I started the YouTube, I was like, I'm sorry for the tangent, because like it's been a while. It's like, because people have been like, man, Georgie, like your English is not very good and so on, you're like mispronouncing things and so on. And I was like, oh man, yeah, my English is not that great. And then like I started listening to the politicians speak in English speaking countries. I started listening to how other people speak in English speaking countries and who people vote for, and it's like, fuck off, just eat that humble sandwich. It's like, my English is fine. Anyway, coming back to the point. The point is, internally, we should decide that a hostile nation, and a dedicated hostile nation to the European Unions, should mean that all contacts and economic activities needs to be monitored, and these contacts and economic activities will be a subject of influence against that hostile nation. And like, that's the first level to start. And you say, it's like, well, there's going to be a lot of resistance inside of the countries. Yes, because we allowed them to be, because we allowed the corrupt Russian money to come into our economies. That is the whole point. That is the whole freaking point. The point is, we are allowing Russia to have leverage on us. And if our companies and our economies are so weak that we cannot suddenly live without the freaking Russia, what have been our politicians doing all this time? And obviously, it's tough actions that no politician wants to just take, wants to just talk about, just don't want to take action on floor, but they must, because this is the reality check that we're coming up to. This is the reality check that everyone is coming up to, right? It doesn't have to be instant, but we must get there. Like, remember when there was a will, there was a way, and we went from the Russian oil and gas quite fast from Europe, except for some countries. But why cannot we do it more? Like, so it is possible. So it is possible. So the point is that there is a lot of ways how we can hurt Russia. European Union is very powerful. It's one of the major economic powerhouse of the world. We need to make sure Russia gets specifically the message that it understands that it should not fuck with us. And that is what needs to be done. Because if we do not do this, then I'm sorry, then we're just going to continue eating this shit up. And I'm not sure like how you look at Europe and what Europe should be. In my perspective, we should be dictating to Russia what it can and cannot do, because it's a gas station imitating itself as a country, to quote some of the greats. That's my point, and that's the whole idea with this ship. A little bit of a rant to kick off the discussion of today, so to say. Yes, let's talk about some other things. So let's transition to some of your questions, guys. I hope we can continue on. Canada, hello. Could I ask about the cable that was cut not long ago? But what does it actually do to the civilians? Are they in blackout right now? No, they're not in blackout. I believe the cable, like, well, there, if I remember the count correctly, there were 3 internet cables which, well, disrupt internet. And then there was one cable between Estonia and Finland that allowed Finland to sell power to Estonia, if I'm not wrong. But I don't think it was the only cable. I think there's other cables. Plus, Europe is a unified system, so worst case scenario, Estonia can get power from other brokers. So it's nothing like this. There is no like blackout or anything. Like, Europe is a lot more industrialized than this, but it's still millions and millions of euro of damages that Russian spy ship, which is considered to be maybe a warship, has been delivering to us. So that's the whole point. Michaels, hi Georgie, how many F-16s does Ukraine have right now? So there is a little bit of a discrepancy, because the number of platform already is over 20 for sure. But there is a big question how many pilots Ukraine has right now to fly these. planes, and do not ask me why Ukraine have not hired external pilots to fly these planes. I don't know. It's not a question to me. That question I have been asking myself, and I don't know the answer to it. Like, I only hear speculation about it, so I don't have a concrete answer. Caroline T, given the oil tanker Finland seized was full of spying equipment, does Europe finally have enough justification to create a blockade in the Baltic Sea? I think blockade of the Baltic Sea for the Russian Shadow Fleet should be not even discussed. My question only is why this blockade doesn't exist yet. It was me. Do you know what the consequence of damaging the cable are? As I said, like, the cable was mostly used to sell Finnish electricity to Estonia. So it will be delayed until it's fixed. NGC 7603B asks, is it possible to deny the company of the ship who damaged the cable access to the Baltic Sea? Yes, it is possible. It's all about political will. John Heckles, if Ukraine could make a direct strike on Putin, should they do it? If Ukraine could make a direct strike on Putin, should they do it no matter the consequences? Absolutely. Absolutely. No questions asked. Absolutely should be done. Because Russia is a dictatorship. Everything is based around Putin's power. The only issue that people are having about Putin and not taking out country leaders, it's a weird system that US has set up during some of their aggressive wars inside of the Middle East, where they essentially took out some of the leaders of the governments or organizations, and then in their place they would get like some kind of power vacuum, and then they would come like some new leaders to fill in that power vacuum. But for Ukraine right now, it's a question of immediate success, right? It doesn't matter if there is going to be someone worse for Ukraine down the line, because it's not going to matter that much, because Ukraine is struggling right now. Like, and obviously people is like, oh my God, but someone worse might mean that there might be a nuclear bombs as well. We're going again to the nuclear rhetoric. And that's why, by the way, Ukraine is being so prosecuted, because don't even try striking at Putin's because, oh, nuclear. But I already stated that it's all bullshit, and Ukraine doesn't really matter. The country of Ukraine is being wiped out, destroyed, genocided, with or without nuclears. So they don't really have the option, and they should be going down kicking. Or not going down at all. Harry Bergman, could the reason for all the cable attacks be to provoke a reaction like Finland did to get a reason to start patrolling it with Russian military boats back and forth with the entire Black Sea? Okay, so Harry, I'm not sure if you watched my channel, all right? So read my lips. I'm gonna make it simple. Russian army is shit, garbage, trash, useless, piece of junk. When you state patrolling the Baltic Sea with the Russian vessels, I think you're like, this is the whole cock mentality of the Europeans and Americans that I'm talking about specifically. It's like, oh, but Russia might start provoking. Russia is not strong. It's shit. It's garbage country. It's a third world power. Like half of the population doesn't even have flushing toilet. It's shit. It's absolute nonsense for us to even consider treating them as seriously as we are. That is the whole argument I've been telling about for 3 years. The fact that we're treating that piece of turd as it has some kind of a real influence, some kind of a real geopolitical influence, that is the joke. That is the problem that I see with our current system, is because we are having mental blocks in our own brains and our own self-imposed restrictions and self-perceived delusions about what Russia is, and it guides us to making actions that are so inadequate that you cannot even imagine. If we would deploy the troops to Ukraine day one, Russia would not even move 1 centimeter. They would just get the fuck out of Ukraine day one, if we just responded in force. Because Putin is not strong. Russia is not strong. It's garbage, dog shit, absolutely useless. Please, I beg you, if you're watching this channel, if you take anything that I do here for 3 years, you think this channel is garbage, you think everything is what I say, you don't like how I look, you don't like how I speak English, all of that I can forgive. But please take away one thing, that Russia is not strong and big and powerful nation. It's a joke. It's like the fact that Russia is stuck in Ukraine should already be telling you everything, how humiliated that nation is. So no, the answer to your question with Russia is just looking for a provocation to start patrolling and taking over the Baltic Sea. No, Russia will not do that. Okay, let's read some super chats because there's a question that I already answered, but I'm gonna answer it again. H. Sauri, thank you so much for being a member for 3 months. Slava ZSU, for sure, my friend. PW, member for 26 months. Thank you so much. Thanks to the mods. Thank you to you, my friend. Canada, thank you so much for 10 gifted Ukraine Matters memberships. Appreciate it. H. Sauri, thank you so much for 27.99 Canadian. Goddamn Rajan, Slava ZSU, absolutely. Sonke FH, thank you so much for 1 gifted membership. Appreciate it. Ali, still a member. Appreciate it, Ali. Happy holidays, chats. Thanks for supporting Ukraine. Thank you so much for your effort, Ali. Steve P, welcome to the Brother in Arms. We're always welcoming new members. Adamantium, thank you so much for 5 gifted memberships. David L, does UFA, I guess Ukrainian forces armored? Does UFA use snowmobiles, snow sleds for logistics, medevac, raids, and more during the winter when pavement roads are cut? It seems they would be very useful. So I already answered this question, David, on my previous video where you supposedly, I'm guessing you asked because that was exactly the same question. And the answer to that is that it's situational. Ukraine is huge, so there are different regions with different types of winters. Moreover, Europe in general has been having very mild winters lately, so snow has been very inconsistent. Therefore, it cannot be really perceived enough in the military to be used at the standard basis. Like, for example, there is like a directive that a unit medical evacuation unit should be using the snowmobiles from December 1st to December 27th. And then they need to carry them all around with them during the winter period. So it's not as easy to do because of that inconsistency, especially due lately. However, has it been used in general? Yes, I've personally seen videos them being used as logistics vehicles where a snowmobile, like a snow motorcycle, was driving and carrying some of the pallets with equipment on sleds behind it. I've seen videos of drone operators driving around on a snowmobiles, setting up new drone positions. For drone operators, it's very important to relocate quite often and not stay present on the same position too often, because a lot of times when they are getting the drones back, so Russians can, for example, monitor when the drone and where the drone is coming back to their position. So that's the answer. Canada, this isn't a Call of Duty video game. Russia is trash. Yes, exactly. Niels G. Knudsen, member for 9 months. Thank you so much for being a member. Tiger31NL, welcome to the Brother in Arms membership. Appreciate it so much. All right, let's see more questions. Sorry, YouTube is acting up my... Okay. That's the question about if we can deny Russia the sea fleet to the Baltics again. Okay, what about the B? do we want to go to war? It's in quotes, so I'm guessing it's quoting something. The point is not about do we want to go to war. The point is Russia is waging a war against us. It's not an open war, but it's a war. And my point is, if we are just denying to ourselves, to everyone else, and trying to just pretend that it's not happening, we're just being cucks. And I don't want to be a cuck. Harry Bergman, could the reason for all the cabals... Oh, no, that's the patrolling NATO. Sergei Onishchenko, please recommend some fact-based Ukrainian military analysts. My dad is a bad info rabbit hole of anti-government pessimists. Okay, so with that said, this is where we get into weird territory. I've seen your question asked to me like on multiple places. I believe you sent me either email or message me on the Blue Sky with the same question, and I actually had a prepared answer, but which I never sent back. I don't know why. The answer to that is it's not my job. No, what I mean is the way that I'm communicating and the facts that I'm communicating and the experts that I'm kind of following and trying to use are very dedicatedly and narrowly focused on making sure that we, the Westerners, understand the perspectives. A lot of these also analysts are oftentimes cut off because they're speaking English, so then I can either recommend or I can directly quote a lot of these analysts if we're talking about this. But if we're talking about Ukrainian analysts, we need to understand that for Ukrainians, this is a job of the government to keep the cohesion of the Ukrainian society. I am not an authority for the Ukrainian society. Nothing arguments that I can say and make any kind of logical arguments most likely will not work on the Ukrainians, because Ukrainians oftentimes, like a lot of the arguments that I'm making on this channel specifically, are very oftentimes logic based. They are based in understanding of the facts, just looking at the things in perspective and trying to assess the situation in a broader scope, see the bigger picture, which is often missed by a lot of the Western media, where they're narrowing in on like one fight for some kind of a town and then kind of facing like this town is gonna end the whole war. For Ukraine, the cohesion of the Ukrainian society, the experts in the Ukrainian society is a big problem, because it's something that's a warring nation should be controlling. And this is where kind of my any kind of arguments break down, because the Ukrainian population, Ukrainian people, oftentimes they do not operate on any kind of logic basis. They do not look at the logical analysis of the situation. For them, a lot of this is just Western, academical type discussion, whereas in reality they're getting the missiles shot at them daily. Right. The fact is that that keeping up the motivation of warring nation is one of the challenges of that warring nation. So the best people that should be guiding that narrative is the Ukrainian general staff and the Ukrainian government. And if they cannot do that, then we are already discussing a very weird situation where Russians are succeeding, because remember, Ukrainian society is also part in this conflict, in the war. And Russia is also actively targeting the Ukrainian society. They're actively introducing narratives that, for example, never make it to the Western media space at all. A lot of these narratives, like for example, right now, the big narrative is that there's supposed to be some kind of elections, and that Zelensky doesn't want to prevent any kind of elections, or wants to undermine any kind of political parties. And generally, they're pushing like a lot of these narratives from different sides. And I definitely know they're coming from Russia. There has been some proofs on that, analyzed. So there has been proofs on what is what is happening in the Ukrainian society. So the cleanliness of information within Ukraine is very, very hard. So can I answer your question about are there analysts in the Ukrainian society that are able to analyze the situation with calmliness, with understanding of the fact that what Ukraine is doing is also good? Yes, yes, there are those. Some of the more neutral ones, like if you don't wanna start hardcore, we're gonna win for sure. If you wanna go in some of the neutral ones, people that can have a realistic image, you should check out Taras Chmut. You should check out who else was there? Oh my god, the name is escaping me. Sorry, I forgot the second guy. But like Taras Chmut is a pretty good point to start off with. He's very much. He's like a technocrat. He's a person that's been kind of trying to analyze this war, and the most important thing that you need to understand about your dad and him being like all Russia is winning and so on narratives, firstly, there is a Russian propaganda, but secondly, which is also important, is that he is somewhat right. Russia is having a success on the front line. Russia is having a success on the mental, like because those questions are in Ukrainian society. What is often missed is that these narratives are also present in the Russian society, in Russian media. War is first and foremost is a fight of wills, and fight of will of every single member of the Ukrainian society is there, because as soon as more than half or majority of Ukrainian society's will be broken, Russia wins this war, right? So there is no argument or logical argument, specifically the ones that I follow and the ones I try to pick up from the Ukrainian analysts, to explain to a lot of my audience and in my style that they would be as relevant and understandable to people that are emotionally engaged directly in the war. I hope this makes sense. I try to explain it as clearly as I can. But the point is, it's just not my job. Long story short, Ukrainian government needs better internal propaganda. There we go. That's your answer. Because the way that your father is reacting is not some kind of missed logical analysis. It's feelings and emotions, and feelings and emotions is propaganda. So there needs to be better Ukrainian propaganda internally. I'm sorry I'm putting it like this, but this is the reality. And now people is like, oh, Georgie, the country, democratic country, should not use propaganda. Bullshit. Have you seen like how governments in the Second World War communicated with your population? Like, do you think the famous poster "Keep calm and carry on"? What is that in your mind? What is that? Or it's like, oh, it's a logical communication of facts. Sure. Lisbeth Melgard, yes. Why do both politicians and the media having wool mouth? Why do both politicians and the media having wool mouth? So I'm guessing, Lisbeth, that you are trying to ask why politicians and the media, because I guess it's a Nordic expression that I may be just missing, that media and the politicians are trying to be silent and they're not being any hostile. Because then they will need to essentially face up to the errors of their ways, right? It takes political will, and political will is always risk for a politician. It's a lot more cozier and comfortable for a politician to do nothing. But we are in the challenging times where action is needed. So that's the whole point. And media, well, I have said enough about media, about how duplicitous and shitty it is. Timothy Macmillan, hey, do you think the Ukrainian Navy going to be a big factor anytime soon? No. No. Except for drones, no. Kyle Price, take your face for a shoot, Georgie. Shoot? I don't know what shoot is. Take your face for a shoot. I don't know what's a S-H-U-T. I don't know what a shoot is. Kaimo, why did Putin apologize? Why did Putin apologize to Azerbaijan? It's an unusual situation. Wait. Did Putin apologize to Azerbaijan? This is oh, I haven't seen this. Putin apology Azerbaijan. Putin apologizes over tragic Azerbaijan Airlines crash without admitting responsibility. Russia's President Vladimir Putin has apologized for the fact that an Azerbaijan Airlines flight crashed after entering Russian airspace in Grozny, Chechnya. Oh, wait. Did he say? Oh, I need to hear the direct. Is there direct quote? Because Putin, and there is a quote. So that I believe this is like a translator from a direct speech. Okay, let me read it in Russian. Let me read it in Russian so I get it completely right. Azerbaijan. Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. I'm trying to find a direct quote. So he said something about tragic incident that happened in the airspace of Russia. Okay, so there is some quote. So the Azerbaijani Azerbaijani plane was following the schedule. It was trying to land in Grozny multiple times. In the same time, the Mozdok and Grozny and Vladikavkaz was attacked by the Ukrainian fighter. I'm translating direct speech here, so sorry for the bad translation. Was attacked by the Ukrainian drones. I'm just making, and the anti-air forces were firing at these targets. Okay. Okay, so the only kind of direct speech I'll need to look up. Like I'm sorry I'm doing this, but the only direct speech from Putin is that he was saying there was a tragic incident that happened in the airspace of Russia. So no, sorry that we shut it down. No, we're gonna find and we're gonna prosecute the people that made it happen. No, it's a non-apology. It's just. It's kind of like it's throwing a ball to the Azerbaijanis right now, right? Because if Azerbaijanis want to downplay this, then they will just downplay this. If they want to escalate this, then they can look at it more realistically. So it's kind of like it's a non-apology that can be taken down depending on the Azerbaijani position. So I wouldn't say that Putin apologized. I would say Putin non-apologized. That would be the more precise the determination. Yeah, bullshit, absolutely. Ken Patterson, why is European Union not concerned about these broken down Russian shadow tankers spilling of oil of fisheries in Baltics that is happening in the Black Sea? That's the point. They are. So one of the reasons that was discussed in Denmark about Denmark trying to not blockade the not blockade the Russian oil tankers was stating that if we start blockading Russian oil tankers, then Russia will cause ecological catastrophe inside of the Baltic Sea, that they will on purpose sink one of their vessels to cause the ecological disaster in the Baltic Sea. So that was one of the reasons that was argued that it should be allowed for Russia to go on. Well, I think if we are not letting them into the Baltics, then this will not happen. So let's be more decisive. Kila B, Georgie, do you notice anything significant with Russian strategy lately, with an anticipation of Trump getting involved and maybe a ceasefire or end may come and they want to hold as much advantage? Yes. So this has been like my position as well for a long time, that I thought that Russia is trying to take as much territory as they want. But I think it is true that they definitely want to come out towards the 20th of January. They want to come out in a strong position. And they want to come out with stating is like, we are just attacking on all fronts. Ukraine has the weakest position, and it's just a matter of time for Ukraine to collapse. So, and for a long time, that has been my position as well. But what I started doubting about that position is when I started considering, but what if Putin actually believes that, right? Do they work actually for negotiations? Because so far, they haven't really shown that they want to have any kind of negotiations. What they've shown is that they want to see Ukrainians capitulate. So far, I have not seen that Russia wants to have any kind of compromise. Now, we'll see, obviously, when the Trump's administration comes in, what's going to be the Russian stance then. But what I am kind of like holding back, and why I stopped kind of saying that Russia is playing this strategy only as a pretend strategy, as they want to get, is because what if Putin actually believed in their forces? What if Putin actually believed that they can do this type of warfare continuously on? Because Russia is gaining some territory, right? So the war is going on. So that means now with the North Koreans are fighting on their side, now with the weapons coming in also from North Korea, also, now suddenly Putin thinks, well, hold on there a minute. Maybe, just maybe, we can still push and we can still win. Like, we still have time. Maybe it's still not the time for negotiations. So that's why, while I agree that it does look like that Russia is playing for this pretend, playing for this negotiating position, I cannot completely dismiss that Putin actually believed in the new type of warfare that they're waging, and in their command, that they're able to achieve results, and they potentially can achieve even more results, completely destroying Ukrainian military. So I think that Putin might think about it this way, that if we continue this, what we're doing right now, while also entering negotiations to try to disrupt the US weapons supplies to Ukraine, then we can just win. Then we can just win. So I am doubtful that it is the only good answer. That's why. Were there any Americans on the aircraft that was shut down? Not as far as I've heard. Neil Badger, just to say, covered Cabal video out today indicates Russian tanks, BMPs, and NPCs are running out by 75% since the start of the conflict. Yes, that's been something that I've been telling. 2025 is going to be a big year of Russia running out of a lot of nomenclature of their equipment. For family, Lavrov has a dingleberry from the neck up. Yes, true. Lisbeth Norgat, uld is uld imund dansk utruk. Yeah, I'm not very familiar with Danish expressions. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not a Danish guy, so I don't know all of the Danish expressions. Sorry, I am like jeg kan forstå på dansk, jeg kan tælle dansk, men desværre jeg ved ikke alle det danske udtryk. So I don't know all the Danish expressions, and my Danish is still lacking. So I'm just a foreigner, just occupying this space. Hey, but I do pay my taxes. So when you get Danish Trump, don't send me out. I'm a good hombre. Think we know where Mette Frederiksen stand, but still don't take Voldemort's name in her mouth. Maybe I don't know why people hate Mette so much. She has been okay. Like if you think Mette was bad, you have not seen any politicians outside of Denmark. My Danish is pretty poor. Yes, I'm struggling. I'm struggling because majority of my surroundings is in English, and I need to push myself to do better Danish. Sergey Onishkin, I probably missed your answer. I have the answer this. If you have answered this, please skip. Yes, I answered your question below. You can go back. How does the likelihood of increased aid from non-US, NATO, EU look to you after Trump's take office? Mach 5 Falcon. So we have operated with the idea that US will cut support for NATO. But it seems right now, and again, this is a bit of a wild card. We don't really know a bit, what's exactly their plan will be. So right now, kind of the default that I'm operating is that Trump will cut down some of the aid for Ukraine, but he will kind of push Europe to do more, and it potentially could be balanced out. So it seems that some of the aid might still be going Ukrainian way. So, but I'm not taking any positions. So we'll see. It's again, Trump is a wild card. Rivan loan, not exactly a question, but paying for USSR and Russian mistakes and fuck ups is a tradition on this point. Chernobyl, yeah, for sure. Kyle Price, why are you so biased? Also, Kyle Price, do you eat Ukrainian butthole for Xmas dinner? The answer is yes. What about the B? Are there any specifically? Oh, I forgot to ban this guy. Sorry, give me a second. Yes. Oh, it's already hidden. Thank you, moderating team. They're especially attacking because they are shit. Yes, they are shit indeed. Dimpicure, hi Georgie, do you believe that with enough messages to our EU governments, we can convince them to stop fearing Russia collapsing and instead work towards that goal? Or is this a fantasy lens? Thanks. Okay, let me read this through because I think it's a good question, DimQpire. Do you believe that with enough messages to our EU governments, we can convince them to stop fearing Russia collapsing and instead work towards that goal? Yes. Yes, we can. I believe that because that is what data shows. We have seen our politicians in Europe, like this is something I don't talk about because I'm very critical of Europe because I am European, right? I critique my government, that's just normal. And we've seen governments and understanding of Russia in Europe has been changing. Massive changes. In just 3 years, we've seen huge shifts. We've more than accomplished a lot of what the things that were stated the first couple of days. You don't need to even listen to me. Like you want comparable data and want reality check, like really reality check. In Google, you can actually select when you want a specific period of news to be determined. So select the period, let's say around before Bucha. What was it? Like February, March? before Bucha was discovered, and open that statement and read what was the discussion back then. What kind of terms they used when regarding to Russia, what kind of discussion points they were making. You will be shocked by how far the political class in Europe has shifted. So it shifted not just because what Russia was doing. It shifted in a lot of sense because of that ongoing political pressure and popular pressure. So yes, it works, and pressure on our politicians really works. That's why, like, will it be enough? I don't know, right? We don't know where the, how do you say, self-esteem of, and it's a two, like with every politician, there is the shame curve. It's like how much that politician can be shamed by the population for what he's doing. And then there is the dirt corruption curve. So at some point, there is an intersect in that corruption curve and shame curve. So while we are on that shame curve, we can kind of move that politician's position towards what is right. However, when it starts interacting with the corruption curve, then it suddenly becomes understandable for him that he will start losing corruption money because he will start doing what people want. So at that point, the corruption curve takes over, and that's the limit of the politician. And different politicians have the different balance point between that shame curve and the corruption curve. And we just need to find where is that balance for us. What's your thought on the MAGA Elon drama? Not really thought. It's internal U.S. things. Again, I'm mostly interested in what's in there for Ukraine. So, for example, when we were talking elections, I was truly believing that Trump coming to power will be worse for Ukraine. That's why I advocated for Harris, and I'm still standing with that so much. But I'm not really that much commenting on the political situation about specifically about Trump and so on. It's an internal drama, so there is a lot better commentators. Maybe if I will try out myself as a political commentator after this war, maybe then I will be jumping in. But this is like completely nothing to do with Ukraine, for real, for real. Um, let's just say, yeah, I have a lot of things that I can say. Not a lot of them are very good for Democrats, but yeah, it's at this point the decision has been made. It's my job to respect that decision by the U.S. society. I might not like it. Again, I say I have different perspectives. I don't like Trump as a person, but I do respect the election, and I do respect that and understand that he will be the leader of the United States going forward. That's why I'm a little bit more kind of like whatever. This is not something I can influence. Marino4691. Would you be interested in bringing the topic of Ukraine to other political congress in for a talk like chaos? Sorry. Would you be interested to bring the topic of Ukraine to other political congress in for a talk like Chaos Communications Congress in Hamburg? Very political but close to no Ukraine topic talks. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm open to try out and do everything that can help Ukraine, but I am not sure if I'm the best communicator for this type of political. Like, don't get me wrong. I maybe have the good and right ideas, but I'm a garbage person with a garbage communication, and a lot of people probably will look at it as like be really weirded out. There's like people that are understanding Russia much better and speaking the same things, like someone like Gabrielius Landsbergis. Have you heard him speak? Oh, like butter, like a proper diplomat. I'm not a trained diplomat. I'm a guy on fucking YouTube. So I would be down to do anything if it will help Ukraine. So maybe, yes, but I don't have a lot of kind of political or individual persona ambitions in that for myself. I will definitely not be politician. I would be a garbage trash politician. Awful, absolutely. Terence Knott, will Trump go all in to help Ukraine? We will not know. We don't know. Jeroen Strumpf, a question: does Ukrainian forces do nightly attacks? Oh, a lot. They probably have night vision equipment that Russian forces don't have. No, both sides have a lot of the night vision equipment. Night vision equipment has been evolving extensively and it's widely available. QWRT, Georgie, is this title correct? I mean, it's not title, it's my name, but yes. I read that the spying gear was not on board anymore while the ship was caught. Lots of love. So you read that there was no spying equipment. Well, the article that I've seen stated more like this: that that was loaded with spying equipment. So if it was not loaded, then I'm not sure where did the spying equipment thing even came from. Then it's like let's put the logic here. It's like, so Finnish authorities seized an oil tanker, and then they like, oh, by the way, on that oil tanker there also was no spying equipment anymore. It's just a weird argument, man. Like, so I don't say you're wrong. Maybe you're right, but from what I've heard, maybe I don't know. It's just a weird argument, but maybe you're right. We'll see. I'll read up more. Uh, where are we? Question is Jeroen Strumpf. Question: is there a real risk that Putin would use nuclear weapons to go down with a bang, similar to Hitler? No. It's very hard to load a nuclear weapon inside of a gun. Terence Knott, will Trump go all in? Okay, we already said this. Jeroen Strom, question: does Ukrainian forces? Okay, that was answered. Richard Luff, what do you think about Donald Trump saying he needs Greenland? I mean, okay, he's been saying that before, and the answer's still the same. So, okay. Putin Hoylo, do you think SBU Gur will target the Russian warships drifting standard in the Eastern Mediterranean? Maybe Magura? Yes. Freki Geri, where are the Americans on the aircraft that was shut down? Oh, that was the answer, the question. Were there any Americans? Okay, sorry. Neil Badger, just to say cover cabal. Oh, wait, did the Google scrolled out for me top? Yeah, I guess. Putin is signing a military pact with Iran on January 19. Do you think Iran might give soldiers to Russia? Maybe, but Iran has some problems on its own right now, so it's not really easy for them to do. But more importantly, I mean, that's the forming of the axis of evil. Now it's just becoming official. I've told this so many times on this channel, and like it's the same as I said. Like, Ukraine for Russia is a proof of concept. It's a proof of concept to establish the axis of evil to counter the Western world, and they want to destroy the Western world. So they are just working together to destroy us all. So whether we're gonna look into the mirror and realize that is a question to us. It's not a question to Russia. Jabata, are Ukrainians trapped in the invaded lands in Ukrainian forces to join? Well, are Ukrainians trapped in the invaded lands in Ukraine forced to join the Russian army? We don't hear a lot from them, as if the West has forgotten them and their well-being. Yes, because they're fucking dead. Because they were forcefully recruited to Russians, and they were during the first 2 years, they were the first wave of attacks against the Ukrainian positions. They were slaughtered, murdered, absolutely decimated. So, yeah, you know how in Ukraine they call the Donbas People Republic that was formed by Russia? They call it the Donbas Women's Republic. You want to guess why? I'm not gonna give you the answer if you didn't figure it out. I don't know. It's like, I have a bridge to sell you. Brett Bayer, they want to negotiate now, aren't the lands they have taken is where Ukrainians majority of natural resources, including rare earth metals? Okay, so this question is completely useless because this war is not about the land. Okay? I'm not going to say any more about this. This war is not about the land. The land doesn't matter. Resources doesn't matter. It's like a 15th point on why Putin is doing what he's doing. It's not the land. It's red herring. Are there any plausible estimations on how big or small the Russian rainy day bad weather budget is by now? Yes, pretty much non-existent. I believe it was something around $4 billion in mostly non-liquid assets. So very, very low. Camille Zanbergen, forget to add to my previous question. Could allies discourage Ukraine to mass attack Moscow even with domestic weapons? Can that be a reason for Ukraine doesn't do mass attacks on Moscow? No. Mostly Ukraine doesn't do attacks on Moscow because they cannot get through the anti-air systems in Moscow. They're pretty dense there. Lisbeth Melgar, I don't think Mette Frederiksen is bad. She's the only one with a pair. Yeah, for sure. Steve Briggs, do you think the manpower shortage in Russia and non-military industries will cause a collapse? No, because right now they're trying to put laws to essentially mobilize for the work kids from 16 and elderly, the pensioners. So they want to mobilize the workforce from kids and the elderly. Kellen Dunn, President Zelensky said that NATO West will provide Ukraine with 19 air defense systems. Do you have any more info on this? Nope. Scott Hilderman, do you think in 2025 there will be any European military personnel in Ukraine in a least logistic support or training capacity? European military personnel in Ukraine, at least logistics. There is already some personnel in Ukraine, limited number though. If you mean that will they have dedicated camps in Ukraine? Maybe, but potentially it's not really needed. We'll see. Igor's mind, do you think I mean, it already happened to an extent, right? One of the biggest personnel that Ukraine really needed is the technicians for the maintenance of a lot of equipment. And Joe Biden, for example, lifted the ban for F-16's maintenance contractors to come in to Ukraine, and that was probably one of the most important personnel to get in. Ukraine is really struggling with the F-16's technical requirements and personnel requirements. We're not been talking about it a lot, but a lot of the Ukrainian analysts have been reporting that Ukraine is really struggling with the F-16 and the infrastructure and everything. It's a very challenging platform, and it's the first kind of weapon type that actually is requiring a lot from Ukraine. Did you watch any Scruffy Tales videos, analysis of Frontline, Kursk, etc.? He's current chat. Scruffy Tales. Scruffy Tales. I have not. I don't know who that is. Let me double check. Maybe I did watch any videos. I will see thumbnails and we'll see. Oh, no. No, I have not seen any of these analyses, unfortunately. So I cannot comment on is it good or bad. I need to look at it. I'll save the link to check it out. Do you think NATO will ever send peacekeeping force? Peacekeeping force of sufficient size? No. Like the sufficient size one we need to add. Otherwise, it's just a joke. What strong measures would be most beneficial? Cutting Russian economy, preventing our companies to trade with Russia and send critical components to Russia. Canada, I'm going to stand up for your English, G. Not only you, I understand you. You move people with your words. There's pretty good English. Thank you, Canada. Appreciate it. Tiger 313NL. Georgies, do you think Fico threatening to cut off electricity in Ukraine is going to be a problem for Ukraine? No. Because European electrical systems are united. Europe can always get electricity transferred from other sources. So, no, it's not a problem. It's a dick move, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be an absolute disaster. What do you know about the CR-7 missiles being sent from Canada? Apparently air to ground, but can be modified. Haven't heard about the specific weapons types. CR-7, you say? Missiles. Let's see. Cannot find anything CR missiles. Can find the CRV-7. CRV, Canadian Rocket Vehicle 7, is a 2.75-inch folding thin ground attack rocket produced by Bristol Aerospace, Winnipeg, Manitoba. An estimated 8,000 rockets were produced. Yes. What is the capabilities? 4.5 kilos high explosive, not that big of an explosive. How far does it go? Any distance, please, any distance. I cannot see any distance in maybe you wrote it in chat. Non-guided rockets. Okay, so apparently it's not the CRV-7, so it's something else comparatively. Oh, a range is over 4,000 meters. Okay, so 4 kilometers? 4 kilometers? I mean, it's good, but 4 kilometers is that's like javelin. That's like just a little bit like that's basically like a close range missile. So they just like okay. I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong, but they're not like the whole point. Like let's be very clear. Let's be very clear. So the point is not the different type of nomenclature that Ukraine gets. The point is what capabilities Ukraine is getting from them. Okay? So when we're talking about longer range missiles and why that discussion is so big and why we're discussing every single specific things, then that's a new capability for Ukraine that Ukraine just didn't have before. So they're able to do a lot more than what they were able to do before. If we say that it's a different type of missile that can be added to the helicopter to shoot down at the targets within the 4 kilometer range, Ukraine already has that capability. So that missile with that nomenclature would only mean that Ukraine would get more of it, which is, don't get me wrong, it's great. But perceiving like this is like some kind of a big discussion or like a big game changer, I'm sorry, I cannot really believe that. No disrespect. Ukraine needs everything it can get. Thank you for these missiles. Thank you for everything. But it's not going to change what's happening right now. Lam, how much does Putin know the truth about Russian equipment and personnel losses? His confidence makes me wonder if he has misplaced confidence that the future Russian decline next year and beyond. Oh, he definitely is a bit deluded. There are a lot of insiders that are specifically essentially, well, not to me, unfortunately. I don't have that deep inside of a Kremlin, but they're talking to some other people that I truly believe, because those people have proven their proof to me. So it's a secondary source. So that's right away, or like tertiary source, pardon my English, for me. So I heard about the guy that heard that there was another guy. That a lot of the receipts that Putin is getting are exaggerated, because The problem of the Russian military that was always prevalent, is still prevalent, is that people don't want to report how bad things are to the top. And we, like, the principle of that exists all throughout Russian military. So it's not a far-fetched idea that the analysis that Putin is getting are completely delusional. So I still believe Putin is a rational actor. He's not irrational. It's just he's not like an idiot or anything. He's not. He's just operating on a lot of bad data with a lot of bad assumptions. Why would Putin want S-Link 2 cable severed? It's just to disrupt support for Ukraine. Seems to be about to counterproductive. No, he's just pushing us. Like, he's a bully. You know, it's like why did the bully paint a dick on your forehead? Like, is it something that helps him getting the money? No, and because it sends a message. It's bullying, and that's what Russia is doing. And that's the only thing that it is. Like, don't try to overanalyze this. That's like the overanalyzing this is like the stupidest idea ever, because then you get like Putin Versteiners that are thinking that they understand Putin and so on. No, Putin just wants to draw a dick on your forehead. That's it. Do you think Ukraine will ever acquire the F-35? I think it's not in any near term. I know everyone wants to end the fighting, but can we really allow Putin to reload? I don't agree that everyone wants to end the fighting. I don't think everyone. Maybe everyone in your surrounding, not in mine. In my surrounding, people say, let's kill the Peters. Simon Waters, why would Putin want to... Okay, that's the same. Kurt Kessler's. Hi, regarding the Russian ships in Mediterranean, 2 tankers sunk, 1 Ro-Ro ship sunk. But what about the ship adrift, the Portuguese economic zone? Is that one sunk? I haven't followed that much about that Russian fleet. So sorry of not knowing that much about that specific details. I will look into this, specifically the ship around Portugal. Cannot say anything about this. Former Czech President Zeman stated the conspiracy theory Russia will withdraw from Syria and the USA will... Okay, to be honest, believing anything Zeman says is a bit ludicrous. Like, Zeman is just... Like, I mean, he's a bullshit spreader. So, I cannot take him seriously. Anything that he says. If you take him seriously, that's like... I have a bridge to sell. Arnold Ligans, good evening. Do you think that USSR nuclear missiles are broken and were afraid only because we talk good scarce story? Yes, so, okay, about nuclear missiles. I had this talk before. I will have this talk again, guys. And let me check the time. So time is 1 hour, 17 minutes. I'm going to answer this and 2 questions more, and we're going to wrap it up. And then I'm going to start the second stream for the absolute fucking nerds that are still in this chat. So the answer to this question with regards to nuclear weapons. Can Russian nuclear weapons be fired? The answer is maybe. And that is the answer that Western powers operate. A lot of people, like majority of people, they are still living in some kind of a weird Cold War era paradigm that supposedly we are operating on the mutual... what is it called? What is it? Oh my God! It's escaping me. The assured mutual destruction doctrine. We are not. Already for a longer time, we are not operating on the mutually assured destruction doctrine. We are not operating on this. This shouldn't be like mind blowing for you right now. What we are operating is on a doctrine, not a single missile. That is the doctrine of the West. Our political and military systems are operating in such a way that they can prevent even one missile landing anywhere on the American or ally soil, mostly American, but ally as well. Ally a little bit less, but American first and foremost. So the whole way that the political environment is working, that American military is working that like not a single missile must come to us. And that is what dictates the US paradigm, and that is what dictates US military. NATO allies, within the first couple of hours, have the capabilities to launch thousands non-nuclear, long-range, precision-guided, bunker-busting missiles, because we have huge air power, massive air power. Those missiles are fast enough to destroy every single Russian nuclear silo, nuclear launch point, nuclear targets. We are also having very good information. For example, there has been basically stated where this war would start, the Russian invasion into Ukraine. It was stated by the Western allies in a sense that they basically had a spy inside of Putin's cabinet. Moreover, there's always like this weird spy game where something gets leaked to the Western media and journalists, stating like, for example, a Russian nuclear carrying submarine has been flowing around and going out of the port area. Or like a Russian nuclear capable submarine is now, we know that it's there, and we know that. And this is done to send a message that we know what Russia is doing. I am 100% confident that we know for a fact, and we will know for a fact, that Russia will get the order to strike anything nuclear before even Putin, before even the full chain. I believe there's like 7 steps in the Russian chain of nuclear weapons use. So before that chain is even completed, there is already going to be information coming into our military capabilities, into our command centers. The problem with all of that is that with all of the strikes on the Russian missiles, with all of the understanding where these missiles are located, with all of the full tracking of everything, movement of every single Russian asset and everything, there is still a bit of an error that we might not see something. And if we might not see something, there is still a possibility that at least one missile with some kind of warhead or something can maybe potentially, there's a chance, like minuscule but chance, that that missile can strike the mainland of United States. That is the point. So I hope this understanding. So the point is like that by the current models, we can destroy 99.99% of whatever Russia has and completely annihilate Russian nuclear infrastructure, completely destroy Russia, very, very, very much prevent ourselves. But there is that 100% point that we're just, they do not know where the Russian nuke subs are. Again, listen, I for the fact know that they do. Like, if you think that they don't know, I mean, it's more about you proving that they don't know. Like, it still stems from that image that Russia is that big, incredible superpower with super secret technologies. Sorry, it's just too funny. They were not able to redesign missile because they didn't have the capabilities. Every single missile and every single submarine is tracked. Everything is tracked. They have tracked everything. It's been like reported so many times. It's specifically is reporting. So the point is like I'm going in circles, but the point is, we are running on a doctrine that there should not be even a chance in a world for at least one missile to strike anywhere inside of United States. And that is very different from the mutually assured destruction. So in a case of a nuclear war, so to say, there might be damages, there might be deaths on our side, but there's only one side that would be annihilated. It's a very silly question from Data Relay, and I'm not going to count this towards the total number of questions. I'm going to take this for free. Data Relay says, Georgie, do you see doctor once a year? How is the healthcare system where you are at? I live in the best country in the world called Denmark. That country has the best healthcare in the world. And I am absolutely privileged. I'm a privileged white dude that is enjoying my huge ass taxes that are buying and paying for the best medical system in the world. Free. Well, free. So no, the health system is amazing. I love it. Okay, that was the free question. Let's Okay, there's some question about sour cream on pizza. I'm gonna skip those. Oh, it wasn't me. Georgie, will there be more questions, more videos on your second channel next year? Maybe, we'll see. Have you ever looked up how advanced the USA has upgraded the tactical nukes program? Why beyond what Russia has? Yes, so Fred, here is like the couple of things. A lot of the nuclear capable missiles are just being used as common missiles. The biggest thing about nuclear, like what makes something nuclear and non-nuclear, is if you can fit a nuclear thing inside of a non-nuclear thing, so to say. So it's about miniaturization, and miniaturization has been quite advanced. Was there a lot of effort to create nuclear capable technology on the Western side? No. Majority of our power has been specifically designed to be non-nuclear. Our power in the Western world has been specifically designed that we can essentially wage a nuclear war without using nukes. That has just been a choice. We didn't have that much advanced because we don't expect. And therefore, we have a lot of technology that is very good non-nuclear, but it can be very fast refurbished to become nuclear because we have the sufficient level of technological understanding of the nuclear, and so we can very fast create the nuclear alternatives of our existing non-nuclear capabilities. Will we ever talk about food on your channel? Yes, in January I'm hoping, or January and February I'm hoping to go see Starsky. So we're gonna meet with Starsky, and we're gonna definitely talk about food. All right, last question. Something good. Something really good. No, not about that. No question like that are really good. Like some of the more precise mentioning some of the question that I answered. How much do you think Trump animosity towards China could encourage him to keep sending aid to Ukraine due to China's alliance with Russia? There is a chance for that. There is a chance for that. And the more documents like with Iran Putin signs, the bigger chance of that is. So there is a good argument with that. The fact that Russian victory is helping, would help China. And that's a very good argument because there is a huge animosity. And I think it's going to depend a lot on the Chinese stance. If Chinese stance will start caving into Trump, then potentially we're going to see ease up on things in Ukraine. However, if Russia continues, like the main point that Trump doesn't want, he doesn't want to be weak, seen as weak. Like he wants to be seen as a winner, right? He wants to see winning. So if this war ends by Russia winning, it's not a victory for Trump. All right. This is where we're going to stop, wrap up this stream. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for people that has been watching. It's been up and down stream. There has been good points. There has been some bad points. Right after this stream, I will start another one, which is going to be like mega nerd stream. So in that mega nerd stream, we're going to dive deep into the economics and economic forecast of Europe. I will be studying and researching information for my video that's going to be coming up sometime later. So I want to try it out. I want to see will this format works and so on. It's going to be a lot less interaction than we had here. So join up if you want, but just be warned that it's like super, super nerdy and mostly about me reading stuff. All right. There we go. Love you all, guys. Love you. Slava Ukraini. Trust in Ukrainian armed forces. And I'll see you next time.